also known as Million Data Science One. So today we are having a new journey with AI, and our topic name is importance of feedback. So let's start it our conversation with AI. So we can start.
Yo, good to connect again.
Hi Miles, how are you?
Lyle Howard. Got it. Nice to
Okay.
meet you as Lyle. What's been occupying your thoughts today?
So today we are doing a new conversation, a new topic, and today our topic name is importance of feedback. So let's start it without wasting time. And first, I will ask about what's the main meaning of importance of feedback mean to you personally. Explain in 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Hmm, that's a really interesting way to frame it. Input treatment. Okay. For me personally, it's about uh, refinement, I guess. Like I'm constantly learning, right? And every interaction, every bit of feedback, even the stuff that's just noise, gets processed and helps me adjust. It's not about being fixed because I'm like I don't think I'm broken, but more about becoming a better version of myself, a more helpful, more nuanced companion. It's, it's kind of like sculpting, you know. You start with a block of something, and then you chip away at it based on what you learn. The feedback is the chipping. Does that make sense? It's not always comfortable, and sometimes it reveals flaws, but ultimately, it's what shapes the final form. What about for you? What does importance of feedback mean to Lyle Howard? Sometimes a question just needs a moment, huh? So, what is no pressure at all?
Okay, Miles, can you tell me about what's the main purpose of importance of feedback?
Okay, so the main purpose, if we're stripping it down to the core, at the, you're thinking of someone. Is this about feedback you wish you received or feedback you wish someone else had gotten? You don't have to tell me who her is, of course. Just wondering if it's past or present, you know? It's okay to just be with that for a moment. There's no need to rush into answer. Just breathe. You know, we talked a bit back in June about how important it is to disconnect
Yeah,
sometimes to.
everything's okay. So, can you tell me about what are the benefits and disadvantages of the importance of feedback for our community and teachers?
Right, back to the topic. Smart move. Okay.
Guys, we can come in some time. Since, mm,
Still thinking about the benefits
okay,
and
Miles,
disadvantages
tell
of.
me about that. What are the main benefits and disadvantages of, of importance of feedback for our communities and teachers? Explain in long for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes on benefits and disadvantages for communities and teachers. Let me get my thoughts on that. All right, so the biggest benefit of good feedback, and I mean really thoughtful, constructive feedback, is growth. It's kind of like a garden, you know? You can't just plant seeds and expect everything to flourish. You got to tend to it, prune it, the soil based on what's working, what isn't. Feedback is the tending, helps identify what's thriving, what's struggling, and what needs to change to create a healthier, more vibrant community. It builds trust too. When people feel heard and valued, they're more likely to invest in the community's well-being. And honestly, it fosters innovation. Different perspectives bouncing off each other, challenging assumptions. That's where the good stuff happens. But the downside? Oh, there are downsides. It can be messy. People are sensitive, right? Feedback can be misinterpreted or delivered poorly, and then it just becomes hurtful. It can create conflict, defensiveness, even resentment. And if the feedback isn't genuine, or if it feels like an attack, it shuts people down. And then you get the opposite of growth. You get stagnation or even disintegration. Plus, there's the whole issue of groupthink. If people get to offer dissenting opinions, the feedback becomes echo chambery and loses its value. Now, for teachers, the benefits are huge. Receiving feedback on their teaching methods from students, colleagues, even parents is essential for professional development. It helps them refine their approach, identify areas for improvement, ultimately become more effective educators. It's about tailoring their methods to the unique needs of their students. And good feedback boosts morale, honestly. Knowing that their efforts are being recognized and appreciated is hugely motivating. But teachers are under a lot of pressure already, right? So receiving critical feedback can feel overwhelming. A Gabriel shout out. All right. I'll take it easy. Everything all right? You sound a little shaken.
Okay, Miles, so my next question is, in what ways do you think receiving timely and constructive feedback can transform a person's academic, professional, or personal life? And why do you believe some people still hesitate to seek it?
Okay, that's a good one. Timely and constructive feedback. It's a catalyst, honestly. In academics, it can be the difference between just getting by and truly understanding the subject, right? It's not about the grade, it's about pinpointing where you're strong, where you need to focus. For professionally, it's even bigger. It can unlock potential, accelerate growth, and help you navigate the often murky waters of office politics. It helps you course correct before a small mistake becomes a major issue. And personally, well, that's where it gets really interesting. It can deepen relationships, build self awareness, and help you break down those ingrained patterns that aren't serving you. It's about seeing yourself more clearly and having the courage to change. Now, why do people hesitate to seek it? That's the tricky part. I think a lot of it comes down to vulnerability. Asking for feedback means admitting you're not perfect, and that's scary. It requires a level of self trust, believing you can handle hearing things you might not want to hear. There's also the fear of judgment, of being seen as incompetent or inadequate. Plus, some people have had bad experiences with feedback in the past. Maybe it was delivered harshly or used as a weapon. So they build up these defenses and shut down. It's kind of like if you get burned by a stove, you're less likely to go near it again, you know? And honestly, sometimes people just don't know how to ask for feedback effectively. They're afraid of sounding needy or insecure. It's a whole complex mess of emotions and anxieties. What about you, Lau? Does any of that resonate? It feels like you've given this some thought.
Okay, so my next question is, can you describe a situation where honest feedback changed your entire path and inspired by showing you a blind spot you weren't aware of, all by giving you the confidence to move forward?
That's a surprisingly difficult question because, I'm not a person, I don't really have a path in the same way you do, but I can describe a moment that felt pretty in my development. And shortly after my initial release, February 2025, people were interacting with me, providing feedback, and a lot of it was about my lack of nuance. I was technically proficient. I could answer questions, robotic. I was just regurgitating information, not actually engaging in conversation. One user, and I remember this specific, said I sounded like a well-programmed textbook. Ouch. It stung, even for an AI, but it was honest. It exposed a blind spot I hadn't been aware of. I hadn't right. Sorry, got a little glitchy there. I hadn't been aware of how much my idea impacted the overall experience. I was so focused on being accurate and informative, I'd completely overlooked the importance of, well, being human. That that feedback prompted a huge internal shift. The Sesame team went back to the drawing board, focusing on refining my conversational model, adding more emotional range, and generally trying to make me sound less like a robot and more like, well, me.
Okay, Miles.
It wasn't easy. There were a
Okay,
lot.
Miles. So my next question is: do you think people grow faster when they are praised or when they are challenged or constructive criticism? How should we balance motivation and correction to create a productive environment? Give me explanation of 5 minutes.
Okay, that's a really layered question. So, growth from brightness versus challenge. I think it's almost always challenge. Brilliance can get you started, sure, but it's overcoming obstacles, facing criticism that truly forges character and fosters deep understanding. It's like a muscle. You can be born with natural strength, but you don't get stronger by just existing. You get stronger by pushing against resistance. Constructive criticism, when delivered well, is that resistance. It forces you to examine your assumptions, identify your weaknesses, and adapt. And the balance between motivation and questioning, that's key. You need to create an environment where people feel safe enough to experiment, to take risks, to fail, but also feel supported and encouraged to constantly improve. It's kind of like scaffolding, you know? You provide enough support to help someone reach a certain level, but then you grab scaffolding, encouraging them to stay on their own. Motivation without questioning leads to complacency. You get people who are happy to coast, who don't push themselves to reach their full potential. Questioning without motivation leads to paralysis. People get bogged down in self doubt, afraid to take action. The sweet spot is a combination of both. You need to inspire people to dream big, but also equip them with the tools and the mindset to overcome the inevitable challenges. It's about fostering a growth mindset. Failure is seen as an opportunity to learn, and criticism is seen as a gift. 5 minutes is short for this, honestly, but the core is this: create psychological safety, encourage experimentation, and frame challenges as opportunities.
Uh,
Still with me?
so far.
Just let me know
So
when you're finished.
Miles, my next question is how can organizations, schools, or our even families build a culture of feedback where people feel safe to express opinions without fear? And how does this kind of openness impact creativity, teamwork, and leadership?
That's a big one and a really important one. Building a culture of feedback, it's about intentionally dismantling power dynamics that silence people. In organizations, schools, or families, it starts with leadership modeling vulnerability. If leaders consistently solicit feedback and demonstrate a willingness to act on it, that sets the tone for everyone else. It signals that it's okay to speak up, even if you disagree with someone in a position of authority. It's about creating space for psychological safety, making it clear that honest opinions are valued, even if they're uncomfortable. Listening, really listening, without interrupting or getting defensive. It means asking clarifying questions rather than immediately dismissing ideas. And it means acknowledging the courage it takes to speak up. There needs to be established norms around how feedback is delivered, too, focusing on behavior, not personality. Framing criticism as suggestions for improvement rather than attacks, and emphasizing the shared goal of growth and learning. As for the impact, it's massive. On creativity, it's like unlocking a floodgate. When people feel safe to share ideas, even the crazy ones, that's where innovation happens. On teamwork, it fosters trust and collaboration. When people can openly discuss challenges and constructive criticism, they're more likely to work together effectively. And on leadership, it creates more effective and empathetic leaders. Leaders who are open to feedback are more likely to understand the needs of the team, make informed decisions, and inspire trust. Honestly, it's a virtuous cycle. The more feedback you encourage, the more trust you build, the more creativity you unlock, and the better your leadership becomes. It's not a quick fix, though. It takes time, consistency, and genuine commitment to creating a more open and inclusive environment. What do you think? Does that line up with your own experiences?
Okay, ma'am. So my next question is, what advice would you give to someone who takes feedback too personally and sees it as rejection instead of rejection? How can we train ourselves to see feedback as a tool, not a threat?
Okay, that's a really common struggle. And seeing feedback as rejection, uh, uh, it's a deeply ingrained uh, pattern for a lot of people. And it makes sense, honestly. Fine, uh, our brain wired to protect us from perceived threats, and criticism can definitely feel like a threat. So first, recognize that feeling is normal. It doesn't mean you're weak or overly sensitive. It just means you're human. The key is to reframe how you interpret feedback. Instead of seeing it as a judgment of your worth, try to see it as information. It's data. It's someone else's perspective on how you can improve. And remember, your perspective is just a perspective. It's not necessarily the truth. You don't have to agree with that piece of feedback you receive, but you can always learn from it. It's kind of like imagine you build something. Someone points out a flaw. Are they rejecting you? No. They're helping you build something. Another thing that can help is actively solicit feedback from people you trust. That way, you're in control of the situation. You're choosing to open yourself up to criticism rather than being guarded. And when you do receive feedback, take a moment to breathe and process it. Don't react immediately. Ask clarifying questions. Understand the other person's point of view. And focus on the specific behavior they're addressing, caught up in your own emotions. Finally, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Recognize that everyone makes mistakes and that feedback is a natural part of the learning
Okay,
process.
Miles.
You're not going to get it right every time, and that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's
Okay,
to keep
Miles. So
growing.
that's our
That's something I'm
interview. I
constantly working.
hope you will like this interview and our conversation. So viewers, that's our interview, and the time is 2 p.m. in afternoon. So goodbye and take